Hi, I'm Christian Lee, and you're listening to Do Not Click.
Christian Lee. How are you today?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Yeah. You were from Hawaii, right?
Yeah, I came in from Hawaii, and I just touched down in Singapore earlier this week on Tuesday.
It's pretty sunny in Hawaii, right?
It's similar in the way that it's very sunny all year round. However, it's much cooler. There's a nice cool breeze that passes through, and it's not so humid.
It's not so humid, that's right. Okay, I just want to ask, can you kill someone with your bare hands?
Yeah, I probably could.
You probably could, right? But you seem like a really nice guy, but it's good to have that sort of skill. Alright, so how do you get the warrior nickname?
I got the nickname of the warrior from actually just my family. We were thinking of what would be a suitable nickname once we started fighting professionally, and the warrior really stuck because it goes hand in hand with my fighting style. I go in there ready for battle, ready to die, and you'll never see me quit in the cage, and I feel like that's what a real warrior does.
But you came up with that name yourself, right? It's not like somebody picked it for you.
Actually, I'll give the credit to my dad. He's the one who thought of it.
Okay. Your family is based in Hawaii, but you live in Singapore, and you have two other younger brothers besides Angela.
Yes, correct.
Okay. You're only 19 years old, and you've been beating fighters almost twice your age. And not just beating, dominating fighters twice your age. How does that make you feel?
For me, it's never really been about the age. I've been fighting older people my whole life. For me, it's about the skill and the work that you've put in to your craft. And at 19 years of age, I feel that I'm more prepared than any other fighter out there in the world because of the hours that I've put in to training at my craft.
And you have a very important fight coming up. Of course, is it part of it to avenge your loss?
But definitely I'm going to be happy to,
And take his title at the same time.
rewrite that loss and to avenge my only loss. However, I'm focused on the title. I'm focused on winning that belt, and there will be no bad blood. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to take him out, and I'm going to have that belt around my waist.
That was your first loss in your professional career, right? But you've lost before before you joined one championship.
Professionally, that was my one and only loss. However, I've been competing my whole life. I've lost many times. I know what that feels like, and more importantly, I know how to come back from it. And so the only thing you can really do from a loss is learn from it, and that's what I've done every time.
You have a lot of different type of martial arts under your belt. There's like pancration, there's BJJ and all that. And you've won championships from all these different martial arts. Which of these martial arts do you think is best that built your foundation?
I think the martial arts that built my foundation was the style that my dad trained me in, which is essentially mixed martial arts. From the ground up, we were working every aspect of the game, not just focusing on one area, but thinking of it as self-defense as a whole.
You were born in Vancouver, where your family ran dojos over there in Canada, right?
Yeah, correct. I was born in Canada and moved to Hawaii when I was very young, raised in Hawaii.
So how often do you come to Singapore?
I've been coming to Singapore frequently ever since a young child, and Singapore has come to my sister and I as a second home, and it's where our roots are, and it's where my father was born, and I feel very strong pull to the Singapore culture.
So initially, your parents started to train you martial arts just for self-defense, right? Because they themselves are fighters and they transitioned into coaches.
Yes, correct. The most important thing, and the reason my parents started us training so young, is because of the self-defense aspect. I feel that martial arts is done so much for me and my sister as people, but more importantly, what martial arts has done for us is given us the confidence to know that if us ourselves or our loved ones were ever in danger, we would be able to protect them. And ultimately, beyond the competition aspect, that's the most important part of being a martial artist.
So you train side by side with your sister?
Correct. We this last 10 weeks, we've been training together every day, running together. We train together every morning, every night, and we're very close.
Having your parents as coaches, did they train you differently than they did with any other fighters?
Well, my parents taught martial arts for self-defense. They actually had no interest in training fighters. They had no interest in us being fighters. It was my sister and I that decided we wanted to take the road of being professional martial artists and world champions. And so I would say we were the only fighters that they've trained, and it's worked out very well for us.
And in Hawaii, you have your own fight gym, which is the United MMA.
Correct. Back home, our home base is United MMA. However, we cross-train with the Evolve Fight team here in Singapore, and we call this our second home.
And you've always been trained by professional fighters all your life, like those legit world champions who are your coaches?
No. The only person that's ever trained my sister and I was my dad.
Up till now?
We joined, yes, up till now, still to this day. We joined the Evolve Fight team back in 2015, the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we've gotten the privilege to train with world champions in every discipline, from BJJ to MMA to Muay Thai, and we've learned tremendous amount of skills from them. However, our sole trainer was my father.
Okay, wow. Was he very hard on you during training?
Growing up, there was always discipline. And I'm very thankful for that today. However, the training really didn't start to intensify until we decided we wanted to become professional fighters. And at that point, you really have no choice but to commit 100% of yourself to it. And so I'm thankful that my dad pushes us hard in the gym every day.
Even in your downtime or your off-peak period, you still do some training just to complement, just so there's not much deficit in your level of skill, right?
Absolutely. All day long, I'm taking notes on the techniques that I've learned, techniques that work for me. I'm studying tape on my opponents, on myself, on other fighters in my range of martial arts. And, I'm just constantly trying to learn, trying to better myself as a fighter. And I'm just trying to be the best martial artist I can possibly be.
So you live and breathe MMA, basically.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've
definitely
missed out on life, like watching movies and all that? Do you still do that sometimes? Occasionally?
Absolutely. There's 24 hours in a day, and it's your choice what you make of it. And I train anywhere from 5 to 8 hours a day, but that still leaves me with 16 hours left, and I really make the most of it. We're always hanging out, watching movies. I brought my family with me, my girlfriend with me, and it's always a great time. Definitely not missing out on anything.
What do you like to do during your free time?
In fight camp, it's a different story. In fight camp, my free time is eating and resting.
Oh, okay.
But, even like today, there's going to be one training session later on tonight, and for the rest of the day, it's free. We're going to go enjoy Singapore. We're going to have fun, and we have to prepare for fight night, but leading up to it, there's no sense stressing about it until the moment is there.
Yeah, and you mentioned to me that you train in the night just because your fight is in the night, so that your body is adapted to the time of the day. Is that very important, or is that it's like really a placebo effect?
Well, for me, the thing is, we train from 8 to 10 o'clock at night, leading up to the fight, and the reason being is, my sister and I, we're the co-main and main event. So that means we're going to be fighting anywhere from 8 to 11 o'clock at night. And so
depending on the knockout.
It really wouldn't make sense to train early in the morning when you're fighting late at night. It just
there's a lot of
it doesn't make
small
sense.
tiny details that tailored to your training aspects to make sure that it fits your fight. So even making weight, there's the hydration test and the making weight. How much difference is having a few kg heavier than your opponent or lighter than your opponent? I'm pretty sure at the level of caliber of fighters that you are in, I imagine that even 1 kg makes a lot of difference, right?
Well, I'd say it's safe to say that most fighters do believe that an extra kg or two will give you the advantage in a fight, but I don't agree with that. I feel that
if you're good, you're good.
I feel that if the skills are there, the skills are there. in training every day. I'm going against fellow training partners that are lighter than me. I'm going against fellow training partners that are heavier than me. I've trained with middleweights up to light heavyweights, up to heavyweights before. And of course,
Heavyweights.
of course, at a certain point, at a certain level, at the highest level,
I mean, the heavy, of course,
A
the heavyweights.
featherweight-
Yeah.
a featherweight is going to have a very, very hard time with a heavyweight champ. However, it all comes down to skill and heart. And, I feel that those are the two most important aspects of the fight game, aside from how much you weigh on the scale.
So what do you remember for your first fight? It was a 29-second knockout?
My first fight was a 29-second knockout.
Yeah, David
correct.
Meek, right? The Cambodian veteran David Meek. Yeah,
Correct.
so I imagine that even if he weighed like 2 kg heavier than you, maybe it lasted a bit longer, but the victory is still assured.
Yeah, absolutely. If he had stepped on the scale 5 kgs heavier, it really wouldn't have made a difference that night.
You have a fight record of 9-1, and you have 100% of finishing rate for your opponents. Yeah.
Correct.
The highest in one championship history.
Yes, correct. I hold the record for the most finishes in one championship history right now.
You used to tie it with another fighter.
Previously to my Yokota fight, I was tied with Amir Khan. However, after that fight, I became the record holder for the most finishes in the organization's history.
So finishing up your opponent in like 29 seconds, you don't remember much from the fight, right? Other than just being focused on the fight itself. But what can you share from the experience, walking through the ring, hearing your fans screaming your name?
Well, my first fight was, I would say it was really something special to me. I was 17 years old. It was my very first professional fight. And I was walking into a stadium full of 20,000 fans, and it's something
age,
that you can't prepare for.
Yeah, at that age, at 17 years old, what kind of 17-year-old prepares for a huge indoor stadium kind of setting?
Definitely, it's something you can't prepare for, but thankfully I just trusted in my training, and it all came down and it came together with a 29-second knockout.
At the end of the day, when you step into the octagon, it's still like a fight. Everything else around you block it out, right?
Yeah, definitely. You're not focused on anything else other than the person in front of you on that night.
Did your sister give you any advice before your debut?
Yeah, she did. We talked together before my debut, and she was actually fighting on the same night. That was her third professional fight. That was my first, and she just reminded me to stay calm and to trust in my skills, and that's exactly what I did.
One of your fight, you lost to your upcoming opponent, Martin Nguyen.
Correct.
I like his name, situ-asian, situ-asian Nguyen. In hindsight, going back, how would you have adjusted your training going to that fight?
I felt like the training for that last fight was good. However, it was just my mindset going into the fight. I really looked past him as an opponent, and that's something that I'm not going to do this time around.
I like how the storyline panned out for you. This is like a very WWE storyline setting where you lost to that guy, and then you're coming back to fight him again, and you're gonna take away his championship at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. It couldn't have worked out better for me.
Yeah, the booking is really is really good. What kind of changes have you made for this fight this time around? I'm pretty sure there's definitely more days for your fight camp and all that.
Yeah, for this fight camp, typically we get a 6 to 8 week training camp, and this one will come up to a total of 10 weeks leading up to the fight. And besides the training, I feel the most important change from my last fight to this fight was my mindset going into it, the training, my mindset going into the fight, and that will be the difference.
Are you and him essentially friends? Like, do you see him? I know when it comes to the fight night or during the training camp, you guys don't communicate and all, unless it's the weigh-in day and all that, right? But are you guys like friends? Like, do you follow him on Instagram?
No.
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 Yeah, strictly.
I do watch his fights. I do study his game.
Wow.
However, in terms of social media, in terms of his personal life, I don't care.
You try not to be.
Well,
Try not to get too close.
For me, it just I don't really care about it. It just I study what I need to study.
You get your own life, and he's got his own life. I'm really looking forward to see you and your sister holding both of your titles in the air at the end. You'll be fighting first, and then your sister, right? Your sister is the last fight.
Correct.
And I heard that after that loss, you watched the video over 50 times.
Oh, definitely more than 50 times. And it's important because if you just write it off and you never watch the fight, then essentially you're just telling yourself it was a fluke. But if you really accept it and you learn from it, then that's how you ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Just want to go off topic a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure you do watch UFC as well, right? You know, whenever there's big fight. So what do you think of the recent Conor McGregor thing?
I think that the guy is just got a little bit too much money, a little bit too much power, and he's
It got over to his head.
yeah, it's getting to his head.
What was your favorite UFC match that you've watched so far?
One of my favorite UFC matches that I've watched recently was one of my friends in Hawaii, who is the current featherweight champ, Max Holloway.
He's your friend.
Yeah, we were friends. I wouldn't go on, pretending to be best friends, but we do train together
Okay.
from time to time, and he's a great guy, a great champ, and I really enjoyed watching his two fights with Jose Aldo, and the way that he just dismantled a legend in the sport.
That being said, you're in a different promotion than your friend, right? Would you see yourself just staying with one championship the whole way, or you want to see yourself trying out different territories like the UFC?
Well, right now, the only thing I'm focused on is winning the one championship featherweight title, and that's all I'm thinking about right now.
Who's your favorite fighter of all time? Which fighter inspired you the most?
I would say my favorite fighter was Fedor Emelianenko. He was Pride heavyweight champion, and he's definitely a legend of the sport. He's still fighting today, and the thing I like most about his style is the fact that no matter how big or small the opponent is, he goes in there looking to finish, and he's very good at it.
Any of his fight that inspired you to be a fighter in the first place?
For me, it wasn't about any particular fight that inspired me to being a fighter. It was something that I felt within myself that made me want to be a professional fighter.
Okay, so in terms of being a fighter, I know all you do is fight, right? That's what you're paid for to do. That's your role. But do you think that for someone like Conor McGregor or Chael Sonnen, the aspect of being a fighter has evolved beyond just fighting, because they built a brand around themselves, their own character? Essentially, if Conor McGregor wasn't who he is, he wouldn't have gotten that fight with Floyd Mayweather, right? Do you think that as a fighter at this day and age, it's not just about just fighting, it's also building yourself as a character, as a where people can relate to?
Well, yes and no. I feel that it's definitely important to promote your fight. I feel that it's definitely important to build your brand. However, a lot of fighters nowadays are trying to be someone they're not. Conor McGregor, Chael Sonnen, when they started their careers, when they started, coming in with the trash talk, they were being themselves. Fighters nowadays are trying to be someone they're not, and that just, it's not classy. No one really wants to watch that. It's important to sell your fights, but it's important to be yourself. And here in Asia, at one championship, trash talking is, it's not something that they promote, and especially if you're trying to be someone you're not. So for me, I like to be who I am, and I try my best to promote my fights as well as I can.
How long do you see yourself doing this?
I started off fighting at a very young age, 17, but I do see many years of fighting ahead of me, and there's still a lot that I have to accomplish in this game, and I'm nowhere close to done yet.
Last few questions. What would your advice be for aspiring fighters?
For anyone aspiring to be a fighter or to be a champion, I would say that it's about staying focused on what you really want and not letting anything else change your mind. Even when it gets hard, a lot of times people want something, and as soon as it gets hard, they give it up. But if you really want to be a champ, you have to commit yourself to it, whether the going gets tough or not.
What about training aspect, your skill-wise? Any advice for that?
In regards to training,
Yeah.
just be mindful in your training and don't just put in the reps. Think about what you're doing every time.
Finally, Can you give a message for your fans and listeners who are listening to this podcast?
Oh, to all my fans and listeners out there, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and hope to see you May 18th, Singapore Indoor Stadium.
Yes. Thank you very much, and good luck for your fight.
All right, thank you.